6-packs and a big bag of ice. 2 6-packs and a big bag of ice.
Hey, it's Bobby from New Jersey, back for a video. Can you believe it? I'm at the shop today. It's a Sunday afternoon and I'm not answering the phones today. I'm just brewing some beer. So let's go in the shop and I'll show you what I got going on. So it's always nice when you have something that's as gummy and sticky, I should say, as any of the flaked grains like oatmeal or barley. It's nice to use some rice hulls. So I've got over 100 pounds of rice hulls, and I just usually add a couple handfuls to every batch that has either wheat or flaked anything. So rice hulls are exactly what you expect. They're the actual hulls of long grain rice that are normally considered to be a useless byproduct of processing rice for food products, but brewers use these as a way to help lautering out of the mash tun, because it's kind of a non-flavor contributing, non-absorbing plant matter that just helps you keep everything separated and fluffy over your false bottom or whatever your separation medium is. Alright, so let's mill some grain. I've got all the base grain in here right now. I'm keeping the roasted barley separate for now, only because I want to run that through twice, so I don't want to have to run everything through twice. But I want to pulverize the roasted barley as much as I can. That's what the recipe in Brewing Classic Styles calls for. If you're just curious, the shop mill is a Monster Mill 2 roller, but it's 2.0 with the 2-inch diameter rollers. And I also upgraded to the hardened steel rollers because we're going to be putting several thousand pounds through this throughout its lifetime, and I want it to last as long as possible. It's powered by a 1/6 horsepower gear motor that's running down to 63 RPM. Yes, it's a little bit slow, but because of the 2-inch diameter rollers, you actually get a lot more linear motion through those rollers, even at 63 RPM. If I had my preference, if I were able to handpick the motor, I would probably be running it more like in the 90s or the low 100 RPM range, but I happen to be able to find this motor for $150 on eBay when they're normally over $400 retail. And it's a brand new motor, so I couldn't really be that choosy. 63 RPM is a little bit slow, but I'm dealing with it. It's nice and quiet, and it really doesn't kick up a lot of dust. So let's mill some grain. So because it runs relatively slowly, the plan is to install a timer switch on here so that I could set it for like 1 minute of milling for 1 or 2 pounds of specialty grain, or up to 5 minutes if I'm doing a full hopper. This hopper extension on here actually will hold 39 pounds of base grain, so I could almost mill an entire sack of grain without being in here watching it. I'm pretty sure that I've already explained this kind of makeshift brewing setup the last time I made a video, but I'll just do a quick one in case somebody didn't see that. It's a 15-gallon Bayou Classic pot. It's got an electric element installed. That's the new 5500 Ripple elements that we got in 2 days ago. So I just swapped out my old one just to try these out, make sure that they're running at full power like you'd expect. And I'm running it on this controller here that's really a very quick do-it-yourself PID controller, and it's got the Auber PID that has manual mode. I've got a pump switch on here just to control my single pump for this particular setup, and I've got a high, low, and off switch here. For rims testing, I've always put it on low, but for heating up water and doing wort boiling, we go with the high so that you get the full 5500 watts. And I've been using the Igloo cooler with a false bottom in it. And I don't have any real concerns about plastic. I've used coolers when I first started brewing, and I was always happy with them. Of course, they're going to wear out and everything, and it's not as shiny as all the other systems that you can use. But until I get my permanent place to brew up in the front of the store where the water source is, this is going to be how I get my fix of brewing on hopefully a regular basis. So, as you know, I like to go into the cooler or whatever the mash vessel is much hotter than necessary. Let's see here. I got 135, 136. That's still too hot. So, in order to help coax it down, you stir it up. You know, like when you're a kid and soup was too hot, you know, your mother told you to stir it up so that it would lose some of that heat. The same thing. I like to stir it pretty vigorously so that it coats the walls a little higher up, because once you add the grain, the entire volume is going to come up and it's going to hit a new area of cooler insulation. So I like to really move this around. So that it coats those cold walls, and doing that probably dropped the temperature at least a degree already. Yeah, it's 133 right now. I gotta go a couple more degrees, so I'm gonna keep stirring like a fool. And I'm already heating up another batch of water here. It's not quite all of the Sparge edition. It's just enough to cover my element safely. And I'm going to be heating that up to nearly boiling because I want to make my temperature adjustment, my step adjustment, by using boiling water. You use a lot less water if it's as hot as boiling. So we're going to be hopefully hitting 120 to 122 Fahrenheit on the first infusion here. And then I'm going to bring it up to either somewhere around the 149, 150 area with my second infusion of very hot water. 131.5, that's close enough to 130.8. I'm going to just call that ready to go in. So I'm going to switch over to my Manly mash paddle. Start getting this going. Now when you're doing a step mash, such as when you do this protein rest, you're going to end up pretty thick on that first infusion because it's this particular batch I'm only putting 1 quart per pound in there, and that's pretty thick. But the reason you do that instead of starting with like 1.5 quarts per pound is that you don't want to add so much liquid just to get your saccharification temperature. So the less mass you start with on the first step, the less hot water you're going to have to add to the second step, and then it leaves more sparge volume to increase your efficiency. But that's why you sit here and you stir it and you chop up those dough balls until you're happy with it. And you know, there's no harm in going in a little bit hotter than you thought you should, so that you can sit here and spend a little bit more time being sure you have it fully integrated and moist, instead of having a bunch of dry spots because you're worried about hurrying up and getting the lid on there. You know, once you get this all stirred in, there's plenty of time to go grab some cold water out of the tap, or in my case today I can run out and grab a snowball or two and throw it in here and stir it up to drop the temperature. But I'll tell you what, it's a lot harder to make adjustments up due to the mass. that you're dealing with. So I'd always tend to err on the side of 1 or 2 degrees hotter than you want it to be than 1 or 2 degrees lower, because it's way harder to fight it up. I mean, it's nice if you have a kitchen stove with a 2-quart saucepan ready to go, and you can pretty much get that up to boiling temperatures very quickly, but I'm stuck here on electric heat, and the only way I can boil some water separately in a small volume is in the microwave, and that'll take quite a long time. Alright, the 15-minute timer has just rung, and so the protein rest is over. So we're going to get most of our wort from this first runoff. Like I said, the mash thickness was around 1.85 quarts per pound after the second infusion to get the sack rest temperature of around 150, 151. And so the amount of sparge water we're going to add is probably going to be a little bit less than what we collect. Unfortunately, I lost some video time because my card got full and I had to go copy all the files, but the brew goes on. I got all my wort runnings out of the mash, and we have about let's see, about 8 gallons pre-boil in there. I'm doing my first hop addition because we just reached boil, and I like to keep all my hop additions in nylon bags to keep the amount of true down pretty low, because I use a plate chiller and I don't want to clog that thing up. So, and for almost 8 gallons worth of wort in there, I'm running my 5500 watt element at about 60%, and hopefully you'll be able to get an idea of how vigorous of a boil that is. Now that's pretty much what I would have expected on a propane or natural gas flame. You know, you can kind of adjust your boil off percentage as necessary, but I think with this element and almost 8 gallons, you know, 60% is about right. As you get towards the 10 to 12 gallon batch range, you'd be cranking that element probably towards 80-85%, something like that. Alright, but I think this is about right, and it's a vigorous boil, but it's not like splashing or anything like that. Alright, so we got our 60-minute boil done, and this is really how I have to do the chilling operation at the shop. I'm in like the employee utility bathroom where the RO system is located, and I've got a slop sink with a hose fitting on there. So I recirculate the boiling wort, and on my chiller I have the that inline temperature probe, and I could see that we reached 195 degrees recirculating through there, so I'm happy that that's sanitized. I'm going to turn on the chilling water. It's probably hard to see it, but it's coming out at 109 degrees right now. I'm running the wort almost full blast, and the water's turned on pretty high as well. Yeah, the output water is really hot. I'm going to collect some of that as my cleanup water. So if I slow the wort flow down just a little bit, you could watch the temperature drop on the output of the plate chiller. It's coming out at 93, 92. Slow that down just a little bit. 88, 87, it's 85. It's coming down pretty well. So I just keep reducing until I see, you know, 60s, in the 60s, and that way you know that you can run right over into the fermenter. Okay, now it's running in the 60s, 64, 63. Increase it just a little bit there. It's in the 50s now. Alright, so I'm gonna shut that off, shut the flow. I'm gonna start dumping this into the sink now. So I got my cleanup. Got my carboy ready to go. So since the flow of Wort, move this right over to the carboy. And I'm just going to open up the Wort valve on the pump and watch the temperature. You start it nice and slow at first. It's in the 50s, 56. I know a lot of you guys down in Florida and out in California and whatnot are jealous of my well water temperatures in the low 50s right now. Alright, so I got it flowing pretty well. You can see it's flowing pretty fast. It's coming out at a 68. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit.